When did Feadships' era of using aluminum for their superstructures begin? Well, according to them, it all started right here with this boat back in '77. I'm Sidney with Denison Yachting. You can call me Sid. Today, we are in Las Olas Isles to take you on a walkthrough of Impetuous. She's a 1977 85-foot showpiece where not a single detail has been overlooked. And why? Because she's a Feadship. So back to her being the first of her kind, she has an all-aluminum superstructure and all-aluminum hull. Because the original owner's primary consideration was speed, aluminum was the perfect material due to its lightweight properties. This soon became the standard for superstructures of all Feadships constructed thereafter. Categorically, this is what I would call a gentleman's sport yacht. That means you're gonna find a tea-covered fishing cockpit where you can pull either fish or divers out of the water. In addition to this, she's paired with one of the coolest crow's nests you'll find on any yacht. Typically, the crow's nest would be used if you have your visibility compromised from the wheelhouse below deck, but also if you're doing some sailfish spotting or you just want a better vantage point of close quarter maneuverings in a harbor that you might not be familiar with, this is perfect for that. On top of the traditional spaces you'd expect to find on a yacht of this caliber, whether it's her salon or her full beam owner suite, for me, it's the enclosed aft deck that does it when it comes to comfort. The reason why I feel like this is the second best place to be on this boat is because of the 270-degree panoramic windows, the dinette, which serves also as a coffee table. On both sides of this aft sofa, you have end tables with super cool lamps that are very nautical. It reminds me of being in Newport, Rhode Island, traveling through the fog. One of the key ingredients to look for when you're buying a fully custom yacht, such as this one right behind me, is a program with continuity. Oftentimes, boats are built, delivered, and then sold probably 5, 6, 7 times, especially a boat like Impetuous. They'll make structural changes, and sometimes boats like this are stripped down to its bare aluminum, especially a boat 40 years old. And this is one of those boats that he did mention when we got the listing that this has never been let go. Like, this boat has always been maintained to the highest standards. Impetuous' current owner and captain have been together for over 20 years, and that makes for a big difference in terms of maintenance and overall upkeep. I mean, they have maintenance records dating back to day one when the Plisky brothers originally surveyed this boat in 1999. That says something. These guys, like legend has it, are known for how meticulous they are in yacht surveys. Some of the things that they'll highlight, for example, even the port guest closet light switch is not working, check the bulb, etc. The tint on the wheelhouse corner curved windows doesn't match the rest of the windshield. This kind of standard was held all the way back to '99 throughout the life and ownership period of this current owner. All in all, there's one area in particular that truly exemplifies what we mean when we say she was designed for extensive cruising, and that area is the enclosed bridge deck. This is a space where owners, guests, family, friends, etc. hang out, have a few cocktails, but not only that, this is the place where sightseeing is just incredible, whether you're doing a crossing or just on the hook outside one of your favorite coves in the islands. Let's start breaking this forward half down and make you more familiar with this space. To starboard, we have a writing desk, easy pull in and out chair with a reading lamp. These just forward are all storage, and just midship here you have 5 drawers for chart storage. Port of that is a large chart table, which is a foldable chart table that you just roll out, fold out, and you lay down the diagram for the area that you're cruising in. And this is just one of those features that does remind you this boat was designed for extensive cruising. Rounding out this area right behind me, we have an L-shaped settee for owners and guests to lounge and hang out. Skylight right up above, some speakers in the ceiling, also lighting coming through the windows surrounding you. Immediately forward of the Ritchie Compass, we have a window that you can actually vent, catch some fresh air in here. Right beneath that are the air conditioning vents. Something super cool that I did discover while snooping through the chart drawers was a diagram that shows how the air conditioning system in this bridge deck is configured. First, it travels through and beneath this entire console where all of your electronics are to actually cool these electronics in case you are extensively cruising, and these things tend to get hot, as we all know, and if you have this many electronics in a complex array like this, I'm sure it gets pretty steamy below this console. The air travels from the console through the deck, then out of the vents just forward of the compass to defog the windows if the environment calls for it, but most importantly, cool down this entire space and the owners, guests, and crew members that are up here. Moving on to the console and all the navigational and communication equipment you see here, we'll break it down from starboard to port for you. Starting on the starboard side, at the top, we have an old school data marine navigator display, which will show you your distance and speed, etc. Beneath that is one of two MTU engine data displays, which will show any alarms that occur in the engine room will appear right here. You can silence them from here as well. Beneath that, the Simrad FU50, which can control the steering components of the boat, trim tabs, bow thruster, LEDs for bilge pump activation. Of course, the original Feadship steering wheel from '77. Just above the steering wheel, we have our rudder angle indicator and a Garmin GPS. And just to port of the Garmin GPS, we have another old school data marine display, but this one actually shows you the depth and not the speed like the other one. This was an international offshore kind of commercial version, which actually supposedly all the captains love this one and they think it's more accurate than anything there is today. This is the other MTU display for the port engine. Beneath the MTU display, you have your twin screws, two VHF radio telephones for Runo, tube TV style radar, which still works. I find that super cool. And in case you were wondering, this boat is stabilized, NIAD stabilization. Here's a data display here where you control the functionality of the stabilizers. Beneath the cubby storage, we have vintage pneumatic Hersey old school fuel displays, which show for starboard and port. Beneath the chart table, of course, 7 additional chart drawers, just in case you didn't have enough just forward of the console. Moving starboard past this comfortable 2-seater settee for captain and co-pilot, we have a storage locker. Next space we're going to take a look at is the aft portion of the bridge deck. Very versatile space, whether you are sitting here reading a book, doing some wake watching, or catching action from where I'm standing into the cockpit where fishing, diving activities will be happening. Just above up here, we have 2 floodlights to illuminate the cockpit if needed, and to port and starboard, we have our outriggers for some deep sea fishing or trolling. From here, we can either descend down to the cockpit from the step ladder here, or just forward using these grab rails, we can access the crow's nest. Up here on the crow's nest, just basic navigational equipment, everything you need to command the ship from this level. You have your throttles, RPM displays, center line, you have depth, rudder angle indicator, you have your FU50 from Simrad once again to control the steering components of the boat, VHF for communication, compass, bow thruster control. That's the crow's nest. Below our crow's nest, you have the mast, which houses the 2 Kallenberg air horns, the big searchlight, which the lever was for in the wheelhouse. You have your 2 radar scanners above and all the radio antennas for the communication systems on board, and also the satellite TV dome and TV antenna domes. The next space we're going to have a look at is the cockpit. This is a place where fishing, diving, all sorts of aquatic activities are performed. Not only does it serve that purpose, but this is how you access the engine room, as well as the aft deck and bridge deck. She is equipped with the necessities you would need for some deep sea fishing, such as on the port side, 6 rod holders. She has a fighting chair, center line, and underfoot we have a bait well. And just after the bait well, we have a big dive door, but can also be used to pull in a big billfish if needed. In addition to the bait well, there is another hatch here underfoot for line storage, and this hatch specifically on the port side is an access to the steering components for the yacht. As you can see, the teak is in like new condition. It was all replaced back in 2018, as well as the varnishing was completed of all the storage compartments here. And these cabinets open just like this, which house the Bose speakers that provide audio. The next space we'll check out is the engine room, which is on the other side of this watertight hatch. Stepping down into the engine room of Impetuous, we're gonna break it down thoroughly for you. We'll start right here with the MTUs. We have 8V 396 TB93s, pretty much all you would ever need for a boat like this. She has a 12 knot cruise, and if you wanted to get economical, you can tone that down to about 10 knots. And she does have a maximum speed of 21 if you need it. The current owner maintained between 10 to 12 knots whenever he would go cruising. No need to go fast, especially with the type of cruising he was doing back and forth to the Bahamas. It's always a plus walking into an engine room painted hospital white. Reason being, any mechanical failures or leakages are very easy to spot. Even down to the bilges are painted in white for that reason. As I mentioned before, Impetuous does have 2 generators. Here is the Northern Lights 45 kW generator, and a few seconds ago I was standing in front of the 50 kW that was behind the step ladder to get down into the engine space. As I make my way center line between the gearboxes and sea chest, behind me is the main distribution panel for the yacht. There's also another one as you step down into the crew quarters. Moving a few steps to the starboard side now, a few things worth noting in this area would be this Bauer dive compressor. Recently, the coolant fan was replaced and also the filters. Not only that, the chiller system behind me was replaced at one point. The most recent chiller that was replaced is chiller number 3 right here on the aft side of the air conditioning bench. Above the water maker are bins stored with spare parts for fuel filters, oil filters, and even water maker filters. But most importantly, Impetuous has spare pumps for the freshwater system, spare pumps for the air conditioning chiller system, and also the seawater pump that pumps that system. Also, the fuel transfer pump has a spare pump. All of these pumps are equipped and already plumbed with crossovers and electrical switches. So if one were to fail, you have electrical switches and plumbing to immediately switch over to the working pump. As soon as I step up to the aft deck of Impetuous here, it reminds me of coming in and out of the boat, having great conversations here. And these are just some of the same things owners and guests would probably have in the space like this, underway offshore or traveling to your destination. The reason why I feel like this is the second best place to be on this boat is because of the 270-degree panoramic windows, the access to all the other areas of the boat, side decks to the foredeck to starboard. As soon as you enter, you have so much storage for the extensive cruising that you could be doing on this boat, as well as refrigeration and ice maker right here. Centerline, we have the dinette, which serves also as a coffee table. It's up to you. Teak and holly underfoot, a sofa aft, love seat on the port side. And the best part about it is that there's a day head right here. So you don't have to go all the way to an accommodation or even run up to the bow where the crew quarter is to use the head. You have one right here. On the bulkhead in front of me, this gives you access to the bridge deck, up a set of carpeted stairs. Just to the left, to port, we have the double doors to access the salon. We're gonna come back to the salon in a minute. For now, we're gonna check out the foredeck. Moving up the side deck, there is a boarding gate to starboard, and there is another one on the port side. I love how wide these side decks are. Typically on any other sport fish, you're doing some sort of balancing act, trying to hold on to a grab rail on the superstructure of the yacht. On a gentleman's sport fishing yacht, you have these wide side decks. To my left here, we have a wing door to access the crew accommodations, but also the galley. Few more steps forward. Here on the foredeck of Impetuous, it's evident to see why this space is more practical than many other sport fishing yachts. We have a 6 to 8 seater settee facing forward here, some steps up that you can possibly install a sun pad up there, catch some sun. Also, center line of the foredeck, you have your davit, ground tackle, and also the escape hatch for the crew quarters underfoot. Finally, on the starboard side, under this cover here, we have a 13-foot no-variant tender with a 50 horsepower Honda engine. The pontoons were replaced in 2019. The boat looks pristine, barely any hours on this motor as well. Now that we've covered all the exterior spaces, we are gonna go back inside and pick back up in the salon. The only thing impetuous about this 85-foot Feadship is her name, because nothing about this boat was rushed. Attention to detail is definitely something Feadship keeps on the drawing board. You notice things like the handmade golden hardware or the old world style cabinetry carving, as well as this contemporary lucite sculpture that divides the salon from the formal dining area. The layout here is simple, straightforward. Just behind me we have an L-shaped seating area that faces the entertainment center where the pop-up TV and AV tower is stored. On the forward half of the salon, we are now in the formal dining area. It can seat 5 to 6 guests, and as you can see, touches of elegance do grace this area with the gold finishes once again. And in this cabinet just forward, we have the fine china, which has Impetuous on there, and the fine china is by Limoges. There's also storage with the engraved custom silverware and also crystalware by Christophe. We could go through this door behind me, accessing the main foyer that leads to the galley and crew accommodations, but we are going to check out the lower deck accommodations and the owner's suite first. As we move forward to the owner's suite, you immediately feel another sensation of volume and every foot of the 20-foot beam. First thing you'll notice on the starboard side is the reading alcove just aft. Behind me is all storage, shelving just forward, and a symmetrical version of this is on the other end, except instead of the reading alcove, you have a hanging locker. As if the cedar line port hanging locker wasn't enough, you have additional storage aft of the reading alcove that stores the deep freezer and also the central vac. Here you have additional storage, and above we have the television and AV system. To describe the ensuite as sumptuous, I feel would be an understatement. Gold is everywhere when it comes to the lighting fixtures, even the air conditioning, ventilation up top, and also the water fixtures. As we exit the owner's suite, we are moving aft toward the starboard accommodation first, where we have 2 beds, a Pullman bunk, which is inboard, a cedar line hanging locker outboard, and behind me is the ensuite for this accommodation. moving along and across the companionway to the port accommodation. This one is laid out just a little bit different. We do have the 2 beds and the ensuite behind. The only difference between the 2 ensuite heads are the texture and orientation of the Dutch mosaic. Also note another difference. Instead of the Pullman berth, there are just some details like this reading lamp storage beneath and also the detail in the joinery. Resuming our walkthrough back on the main deck, follow me through the main foyer, where we will remind you again about the starboard side wing door where the crew can access the side decks to other places around the boat. Here in the galley, which I consider to be a kitchen-sized galley, we have, of course, the Dutch tile complementing the space. Not only that, the appliances throughout here are 2 full-size refrigerator and freezers by Fisher & Paykel. We have KitchenAid microwave, KitchenAid dishwasher, trash compactor. Finally, there's a double sink with garbage disposal right in the middle all the way to port. Follow me as we exit the galley and take a look at the crew accommodations below deck. As we make our way down to the crew landing area, after finally going through all the spaces on board, I wanted to say so bad how all those spaces were appropriately sized. Well, now it's a good time to mention that finally, when we're in the crew quarter, because I feel this is also appropriately sized, just like the other spaces on board. Up here to starboard, you have a bunk. Below, you have the crew mess lounge, which also converts to a bed. You can sleep a second person. Storage is abundant in this space. I have a cedar line hanging locker right here to starboard. And to port, I have another cedar line hanging locker here. Across from that is the washer and dryer stacked combo. Exit in the ensuite, we have a skylight above, which also doubles as an emergency hatch. You will use these step ladders to exit, and we are moving aft now to have a look at the captain's cabin. On the forward end of the captain's cabin, we have a cedar line hanging locker, an additional one here to port, and a nice sized bed, 2 porthole windows, and a great amount of storage underneath the bed and also aft of the bed on the starboard side. Here we are, end of the day, covers back on, window shades back on. This is by far my favorite one for the shade, 2 for its functionality. You can still access the other spaces of the boat. The last thing I want to mention is having the honor to co-list this Feadship with Ken Denison, who is literally an encyclopedia when it comes to pedigree yachts like this. He could have crushed this video with his eyes closed, but he gave me the opportunity to go ahead and do it. So I guess, Ken, let me know how I did in the comment section below. And if you, the viewer, have any questions regarding this yacht, please give Ken Denison a call or myself, and we'll gladly get you on board. Thanks again.